Welcome back to Irish Illustrated Insider. Today's episode features Tim Priester of Irish Illustrated, John Bryce of Football Scoop, and myself, Tim O'Malley. Actually, is that myself or me? John Bryce, you're the grammatarian here. Anyway, I want to begin, Mr. Bryce, fresh off his trip to Honolulu and Mr. Hanale's old burial ground there, looking for evil idols. JB, I want to get your quick thoughts on Notre Dame's imperfect, but perhaps most important, very well played defensive game in a 28-7 workmanlike win over
Yeah,
Boise.
and it still was a working trip. I should point that out. I did host Overtime Live on Saturday and also paid homage to the Irish by going to Lulu's on Waikiki Beach, which is owned by John Leahy, the son of title-winning coach Frank Leahy.
Wow.
So I did my due diligence. I liked the victory from Notre Dame because I think it's a game that we had to see from Notre Dame. We had to see a game where Notre Dame did not play well in multiple phases, but particularly in offense, where it was disjointed in a number of things, where uncharacteristic things happened to the Irish, such as a blocked PAT. Like the one earlier this year was a fumbled snap that I still don't understand, but we don't see a lot of PATs blocked for Notre Dame.
Mhm.
And so, despite all of that, Notre Dame won the game comfortably. I felt like when Notre Dame took the 14-7 lead, it was over because Boise State had had every opportunity to have more than a 7-6 lead, and Notre Dame had left so many points on the field. So that was much closer to a 44, 45 point performance from the Irish, but it was a really convincing win, and it was a controlling win, and it was also an imperfect win. And coaches will tell you one of the best things is when you get a win that midway through the fourth quarter, you know you're getting a win, but you know there's a hell of a lot of teach tape, and there was a hell of a lot of teach tape.
Tim is a former high school baseball coach. Our coaches always said the best kind of win is a 2-1 win. Now, there's not an exact correlation there, but the point being that you play good defense, you pitched, and you kept the scoring down. And look, we know this offense is going to be really, really good. It continues to be really good. The offensive line's getting better. I talked to Marcus Freeman, or asked Marcus Freeman about that today, and there were some mistakes made. C.J. Carr uncharacteristically misses on a deep ball. Doesn't throw the ball far enough to Micah Gilbert on a deep ball in the fourth quarter, but Micah Gilbert's got to aggressively attack the football. That's twice it's had happen. But the point being that the most important thing was for the Notre Dame defense to take a step forward, and they did. And did they play the best offense in the country? No, but they did play an offense that sure as hell wasn't going to give up as long as Maddox Madsen was at quarterback. With Maddox Jeter Madsen was at quarterback. And so, look, the expectation is perfection, especially with CJ Carr now. Like, he misses on one deep ball and he had a bad game. He didn't have a bad game. He had a bad throw or two, but he did a lot of good things in and around the pocket. The main thing is that the defense stepped forward, continued to make strides. The Fire Chris Ash group has settled down. I realize that that could go away in the first quarter of this coming week, but it was great for things to just kind of settle down, take some of the pressure off of Ash. The defense is playing real aggressively. The secondary is playing much better than it did at the beginning of the season. A lot of progress this past week in a lower scoring game than we anticipated.
Yeah, I think if the Chris Ash crowd comes back the first quarter of the North Carolina State game, there could be questions about it again. But
Oh, yeah.
USC is going to challenge it. If NC State
No
challenges
doubt.
them badly, there's going to be an issue, I think, with Chris Ash. But I wanted to stay with the offense because even when CJ Carr kind of worked through his imperfect game, Will Pauling 2 weeks in a row, Jordan Faison at least 2 weeks in a row, Malachi Fields more than 2 weeks in a row, he has found a trio of wide receivers that are now playing consistently well. Like, hopefully Jaden Greathouse can rejoin the fray. You mentioned Micah Gilbert. I was kind of on the Micah Gilbert train because not only his touchdown catch and other first down catch versus Miami, but we saw him out there with Fields. They clearly trust him. He does have to attack that ball. Tim, it was almost like he was just running down the field and the ball was thrown in the air and it didn't matter where it landed to him on that one. It was the
Right.
only way I could describe it. It was
Didn't that
strange
happen?
because
Didn't that happen along the Notre Dame sideline in the Purdue game? Or
I don't recall
I
that, but if
think
it did, yeah, they
it's
have
not
three
that.
receivers. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I mean, it's not like he's going to make the catch. It's a virtually an
Yeah, yeah.
impossible catch. But that's not the point. The point is, you've got to battle for it. You got to go. You got to fight your way through defenders to try to make a play on it. And he decided to wait on. We're really going into the weeds here.
Well, I was going to say, JB, three receivers though have been consistent now. You could say that about Will Pauling because I felt like I think I leaned over to Tim. I'm like, at one point, I'm like, I think Will Pauling's going to be my offensive MVP. Then I looked down, he only had 2 catches and a holding penalty draw. I was like, well, I can't do that, but he's playing well, and that really augments the offense.
And again, there's trust there, and I think that's what's important to note. The guy is a captain, and in a captain, you expect when his number is called, especially when you're a few games into the season, you need him to be ready in that moment. This was the most extensively his number's been called, both in the throw game and because he needed to be on the field more without Jaden Greathouse, and he absolutely delivered. And the touchdown catch was sensational. The 2-point conversion catch was just like an automatic maneuver, so you appreciated that out of it. And yeah, I think that we don't probably talk enough about CJ Carr diversifying the offense. That was a little bit more of a case on Saturday. No, he didn't have a large volume of catches, but CJ Carr showed a comfortability in going to Will Pauling in addition to feeding Malachi Fields and Jordan Faison. And then they tried to do some things to get Eli Raridan involved. I thought the OPI was very ticky-tack on him. I would like to study that more. I'd like to see an overhead angle to see if they were within the 5-yard window.
JB, you know what Pete Sampson said about that one? He said if that was a stronger player, it wouldn't have been OPI because he wouldn't have fallen down.
Yeah, I made the same comment to somebody on Saturday in a text message. I was like, that guy just looked like he flopped. Like he would have been. Yeah. He looked like LeBron. Like he just took a dive. So I think that you're seeing so many encouraging things, and I'm going to keep preaching on this stat because I love it, and I'm a stat nerd, and that is that now Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price have a combined 43 touchdowns in their last 21 games.
Oh
If you take it one step further and go back to the Sun Bowl, it is 45 touchdowns in 22 games. 45 combined touchdowns in their last 22 games. And I laughed with somebody on campus yesterday that I was texting with because they scored 2 touchdowns in a combined 25 touches on Saturday. And so their season average or their average slightly went up because going into the game, they were scoring a touchdown once every 8.17 touches.
And there's really, Carr throws such a pretty ball, such a catchable ball that he's developed a chemistry with Fields. He's obviously developed a chemistry with Faison. They don't use Raridan as much. It's not like an every game thing, but when they do, it's effective. And then you had Pauling this past week. So, look, make no mistake, the guys are getting open because those balls would be batted down generally if they weren't. But the chemistry between Carr and an array of guys now is impressive. And what he's added, JB, to your point, he can fake run and throw, and he can fake throw and run. So you don't know exactly, he clips off that 28-yard run. He is an exceptional, he's very deceptive when he ends up running. He uses the fake throw and vice versa. So that part of his game, I keep talking about and writing about, I wrote about again in today's Tale of the Tape. That part of the game, everything that Marcus Freeman says about him, about how his head's always in the playbook and he wants more information, we're watching it unfold on a game-by-game basis. The areas of his game where he wasn't as good. He didn't step up in the pocket against Purdue, which Marcus Freeman wanted him to do. He did in the first series this past weekend on a 24-yard connection to Pauling, I believe, on that one. So his game just continues to evolve. He throws a very catchable ball. He's got great chemistry with multiple people in a passing game. And I didn't even mention Jeremiah Love as a member of the group of guys catching passes.
People won't forget him, so we're good on that one. Yep. But Priester, you did ask, before we get to Marcus Freeman's press conference, you did ask about where he saw improvements in the offensive line because, look, everyone knows Miami's defensive line was the main problem against Notre Dame's offensive line, but they also were not playing as well in the first 8 quarters as they are in the last 12. The opponents have changed, but they've coalesced, and that's what allows 3 receivers to become consistent. What allows every 8 touches for Jeremiah Love or Jadarian Price to score, and for CJ Carr to throw pretty balls because he's not being protected throwing horizontally anymore.
Yeah, and Marcus Freeman's talked about, I'm paraphrasing, like self-correcting. The offensive line is self-correcting as the game goes along. They're becoming coaches of themselves on the field, and that's chemistry. I think we all knew that Gerby Lambert was going to be good, but now he's got a whole bunch of snaps under his belt. I remember when I was talking about Billy Schrouth last week. I thought he played his best game. He was very, very impactful in the running game, so that's good to see. Really, there's so many good things happening on offense. The only thing they didn't do was score 2 more touchdowns. If they score, even if they get to 35, we look at it differently. If they score 2 more, then we're not even talking about, whether C.J. Carr had a bad game, he didn't have a bad game. He did so many good things well that those compensate for a couple missed passes, especially when your defense holds the team to 7.
JB, we just finished instant analysis and spoke about the kicking situation. Special teams was your question, your number one question to Marcus today. I think we should obviously have to share it here because the Noah Burnett situation should not be a massive issue against North Carolina State, but it absolutely should be against USC. Maybe it won't be. A couple years ago, the kicker didn't matter, but you would think that Noah Burnett's availability and consistency is going to be crucial in 2 weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And questionable this week, and obviously missed this past week. That's his second game missed. Notre Dame hasn't especially missed him, but Notre Dame wants clarity at that situation and felt like, I still remember when we talked to Marty Biaggi in the preseason, and he was sort of incredulous at the volume of kicking that Noah Burnett had done at his previous institution and felt that had really contributed to it. So they'd tailored a custom plan to try and keep Burnett healthy, and it hasn't worked out that way. Marcus Freeman saying we're not going to tolerate soft tissue injuries and just say bad luck. We're going to dive down into it and see what happens and see if we can pinpoint what a root cause is, whether it's for Devontae Smith's right calf strain that will have him out this week, or whether it's the lingering hamstring issue for Noah Burnett. But in the meantime, that leaves Marcello Diomede and Eric Schmidt, the true freshman, with the cannon leg, but he had a kick blocked on Saturday, and that was obviously concerning. Marcus Freeman saying we're going to end the competition midweek this week, basically, that they'll select someone probably by that Wednesday practice. I would think no later than Thursday. They'll select someone to be designated. If Burnett can't go, Diomede or Schmidt will handle all kicking duties in the game, barring something unforeseen.
How do you guys think that's going to turn out if it's between those two? I mean, we haven't seen Diomede enough, I guess, to really know. He's got a big leg. If you watch the replay of the blocked extra point, I don't know. You put all that on Schmidt. Lambert, who's actually at left guard there, kind of got off balance and couldn't recover his balance, and then Vincey stood straight up. I don't know. I don't know if the elevation was good or not, but fortunately, Notre Dame's been in a situation where they keep scoring touchdowns, generally speaking, and so it hasn't come up big. Tim, you're probably right. It could come up big against USC, but yeah, Coach Freeman talked about, I asked him about putting your heads together, whether it's strength and conditioning coach or Rob Hunt or just the whole staff, and they got to come up with answers because this is 2 years in a row where you're getting strains. You've got offensive and defensive players taking a pounding and going out there every week, and you can't keep your kicker on the field because he has soft tissue strains.
Yeah, and it's I wonder if there's no way of us knowing this, like how available he kicked off against Arkansas. He kicked extra points. They were killing them. And he didn't kick anymore in the second half. Now, did he strain himself did he re-injure himself in that? Or did they say, well, he was injured coming in, he gutted it out, let's get him out of here, we don't need him anymore when we have 42 points on the board. I have a feeling he's going to be available for USC, no matter what they have to do. They're going to make Noah Burnett in some way available for USC unless he suffers a setback. Not saying that you need him for a game-winning field goal necessarily, but you do need him for your extra points along the way. You want that thing to be an automatic. You can't have the chasing points situation when you're down 7-6 or 14-12 and you have to worry about that the entire game. So you want Noah Burnett in. Tim, who's going to win it? I have no idea because we don't really see them in competitive.
And we have with
I feel like Schmidt won it, so maybe Schmidt wins it again, right? He obviously won it last week.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
that's the way I see it. Like, they've shown already even though he's a true freshman, they're willing to play him. They, much like the quarterback position, they're trying to get to a spot where they don't have to go into the portal year after year to basically sign a specialist free agent, such as a place kicker, which has been the MO the last few years. And so, and Priester, you and I have talked about it because you and I specifically noticed, even though we weren't side by side, we heard Schmidt kicking one day and heard that boom. So, both those guys are valuable to Notre Dame, but I would think talent will win out, and Schmidt just is a little bit more big legged.
Defense, obviously, 4 turnovers, guys, to wrap up our talk in the Boise State game. 4 turnovers and by the secondary. That's good to see. Did Luke Talent catch that ball? It doesn't matter. It's a 4th turnover anyway. But there was no one found out, I guess, on TV replay because they never showed it. We kept looking at it in the press box replay. And I have to admit, I didn't care that much because it was a turnover on downs anyway. So I wasn't monitoring it. But good for Luke Talent, who... It's such an interesting safety rotation because clearly Tay Johnson and Adon Schuler are the 2 best players in the rotation there. But Talich does play well when he comes in. And Jalen Stroman, although he had some obvious glaring issues that got him benched, for lack of a better word. I've noticed one thing with Jalen Stroman. When it's 3rd and long, he's in the game, and he always shuts down the run where the guy escapes. I don't know if people have paid attention to that or not, but when it's 3rd and 21 and someone's running for 16 yards, and you're like, oh, God, Jalen Stroman comes in and makes the play. I think they still have faith in them. But the real key is Leonard Moore's back, and I think that's one of the reasons they look so much better on Saturday.
Just, I mean, you want to talk about guys that impact the people around him.
My God.
I mean, sometimes maybe to a detriment, like Ben Morrison, to a detriment for Christian Gray, because they're looking, they're looking other ways. Although they didn't, Boise State targeted Leonard Moore. He had more targets than some of the receivers. And, he just, the impact on the game, and Marcus Freeman today talked about the leadership that he brings. And, he's not a guy that necessarily that's going to get up in people's faces. It's just, he's so good that there's an aura about him that I think shines on everybody around him too. So yeah, there's no doubt Stroman's a torpedo in the open field. That's what he does. That's why the missed tackle along the Texas A&M sideline was a little bit surprising. Also, the Tim, you showed me that. You showed me that replay of the angle that he came from on that Craver.
God, I don't know what I was looking at that again for, but I was.
Yeah. But no, Leonard Moore is, how many more ways can you say sensational? And this is a guy coming off of an injury, and he steps in and does that. Why you'd throw the football anywhere in the vicinity of him when you're Boise? I don't know. Somebody said on our message board, well, Notre Dame just faced bad quarterbacks. Madsen, playing against lesser competition, he threw 6 interceptions on over, almost 400 passes last year, and he threw 4 the other day. So that's not an unproductive quarterback. Notre Dame's defense did a great job against a very productive quarterback, albeit one that doesn't, fit the normal physical dimensions.
Speaking of interceptions, if I could interject real quickly as we continue to talk about CJ Carr, and then this ties into it. That's now 14 quarters without an interception for CJ Carr. Let's remember
74 passes, by the way, JB.
84.
There you go.
84. His last 4 pass attempts of the second quarter against Texas A&M, plus all 15 pass attempts of the second half against A&M. So the final 19 passes without a pick, and then 12, then 30, then 23. So it's 84 attempts without an interception, 14 quarters. He's taking care of the ball better, and I just think that's significant for a guy who's still playing real football for the first time in 2 years, and he's playing it under one of the largest microscopes in sports.
There you guys have it, listeners. Pass number 85 by CJ Carr this week. Somehow Peyton Wilson will make his way back to the field for North Carolina State, and that's the interception because JB and TJP both jinxed it. It's coming up.
No such thing.
Hater.
Jinxes don't exist.
That's true. Well, you know what? I don't believe in clutch hitting, but I do believe in David Ortiz. That's the actual saying I think people have right there. So there's no. That segment of this upcoming segment of Burning Up the Boards is brought to you by the RV Manufactured Housing Hall of Fame in Elkhart, Indiana. In addition to the museum and various exhibition halls, the campus is open to the public for free camping and is less than an hour from Notre Dame's campus, so no reservation is required. Whether you're looking to learn more about the history of recreational vehicles in our Kindland Library or simply a cost-effective, interesting place to stay on your family road trip, the RV Manufactured Housing Hall of Fame can provide exactly what you are looking for. We'll be right back with segment 2, Burning Up the Boards. With football season in full swing, I've been looking to find the best deal on Notre Dame tickets, both for family and friends, but also as a memorable gift idea. That's why I want to offer the sponsor of this segment, SeatGeek, a huge shout out. With over 35 million downloads, SeatGeek is the number one rated ticketing app. There are more than 70,000 events listed on SeatGeek, including concerts, sports, festivals, and more. Whether you're an Irish fan looking for a ticket to the mid October clash with USC or any of college football's season defining matchups down the road, SeatGeek has your back. Each ticket is rated on a scale of 1 to 10, so you know you're getting a good deal. Look for the green dots. Green means good, red means bad. Plus, every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee. And of course, I have a code for you guys. You can use Irish10, that's all capital letters in the number 10, for 10% off your next set of tickets at SeatGeek. 10% off any tickets with promo code Irish10. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app and have the code automatically added to your account so you can use it later. Thank you, SeatGeek. First question, burning up the boards. It goes right to the heart of the matter of the defense from AC Irish. Has the defense really turned the corner? And if we accept that, what are the top 3 reasons why?
Mr. JB.
All right. Give me just a moment here, actually.
I'm going to start with time.
Okay.
I'm going with Pete Sampson's thing is time is one.
Yeah, I think that's significant. I think that we are seeing a bit more of just guys feeling more comfortable in what they're doing. I think is very much a key component of it. They're just better able to know their assignments. One thing we talked about in instant analysis, one thing we talked about Saturday in overtime live is that defensive line. And we talked about it going into the game. I said I thought Maddox Madsen would have some trouble throwing over Notre Dame's defensive line because he is a shorter quarterback. And so Notre Dame not only had a height advantage, Notre Dame had a aggressive discipline advantage because it did push the pocket, it did get upfield, and then it did get its hands up, and they sacked him and they forced interceptions, and it was clearly their most disruptive day of the season, in addition to being their lowest point total of the season. So I think it's that. I think they're settling in. I think they fixed some rotations or feel more comfortable. And I'm going to be honest with you, I put a lot of it on Tay Johnson. I think that the way he plays, and he plays with velocity even if he doesn't have clarity. And now he's getting more and more clarity every week. So for me, I think it's all of those things. But I like slight lineup tweaks. We're seeing those freshmen who were forced into action early, like a Dallas Golden, growing a bit more. Mark Zachary, I thought, looked vastly improved from where he was in his first start, which you would expect out of a true freshman. And yeah, they're maybe doing a little bit more with some blitzes at some times. And NC State's not a bad offense. For me, I think we say turn the corner if they're really good on defense against USC.
Yeah, I'm hesitant to say turn the corner because you're only as good as the next corner you have to turn. So, but this is a good challenge, and I will say this, like you can say, okay, well Notre Dame's offensive line has gotten better. They've also faced some bad defenses here recently, Purdue and Arkansas. Not that Boise's bad, but it's still a group of 5 defense, and so it's not as I thought Notre Dame's interior offensive line beat the crap out of their defensive tackles. But I think the offensive line's gotten better. The defensive tackles have gotten better. You've got a rotation now there where you kind of feel pretty good about it against a couple good offenses. The pass rush, again, that doesn't show up in NCAA stats, I think disturbed Taylon Green enough to throw him off his game a little bit. Certainly Leonard Moore's return last week. I agree with you, JB. Absolutely. Tay Johnson, the guy that I continue to say is underrated, Christian Gray. I think there's a lot of individual. Marcus Freeman talked about winning one-on-one matchups. I think they're winning some one-on-one matchups on the defensive side of the ball. I think he was mainly talking about the offensive side this past week, but guys are getting better, and that includes time. And I think it's noteworthy because of the offenses that you did it against. But you got another corner to turn coming up here, and I don't want to make any proclamations for them, but they're doing a good job. They're improved.
I think
real quickly, I was just say, first of all, what if it's an oval racetrack? No, I'm kidding. And second of all, to further my point about Tay Johnson, it still allowed them to use Stroman and Talent in some specialized roles, which I think is still very good. But Tay Johnson back there, along with the Don Schuler, there's so much speed right there that early in the season Notre Dame was hampered that when a guy got beat in coverage or something, it ended up being a 28-yard play, a 24-yard play, 32, 46, 86, as we well know. Well, Tay Johnson has the kind of speed that a play is 14 yards now or 8 yards now instead of 8 yards turning into 38 yards. So I think that there's still some stuff they obviously can clean up, but there's so much more speed in the back end, and I do believe that's significant. And Tay Johnson brings that speed, and he plays with an attitude.
I'm surprised that Johnson, I mean, a young guy like that is usually ripe to be picked by somebody with some variation, and maybe it's coming up.
I
But
mean, yeah, I was gonna say
yeah,
Mayava and Lemon might
no,
have something to do with
no,
it.
no doubt about that. No doubt about that. But he has played, and I say this I mean, he's played with a level of clarity that it kind of blows my mind because he just didn't have the background to do it. And he obviously he came in last year and learned a ton, played a couple different positions. He's obviously a really smart kid because to be able to pick up what they're doing on the back end, you've got to come up with, you got to come in there with some intelligence and then gain the clarity. But he's been sensational. Yeah, he could be right for the picking by USC, Tim, but everybody is with their passing game to some extent.
I think time is part of all of this because I believe it took Chris Ash some time to get to know his personnel, and let's say it took Max Bulla and Mike Mickens some time to get to know their personnel and Chris Ash's tweaked scheme. Like they know what they have in those safeties, they knew exactly what they had in their corners and their linebackers, but it's a different scheme, it's a different thing. You're doing different things. It's not all on Chris Ash. Those guys should and Al Washington I throw out there. I think Al Washington's got more of a set rotation. That's why I'm not including him quite as much here. But and even Al Washington, I still think you're going to use they're using Donovan Heinisch better than they would have. That's probably because time allowed them to trust Elijah Hughes. Time allowed Cole Mullins to become a player that can join the team because he hadn't played in his life for a college football game. So it's time and trust and tweaks. There you go. Three T's. That's what made his time, trust, and tweaks. And Tay.
Dawson played much better last
Yep.
week as well. It's just guys coming on. It's great to see.
Next question from Irish Law. Can you elaborate on I believe this means future availability of Greathouse and Aeneas Williams? Both would help against NC State and USC. Very quickly, Aeneas Williams did play. He plays on every kickoff return. So Aeneas Williams has played 5 games, JB. Jaden Greathouse has played 4 and missed with a thigh strain, right? Thigh strain?
Yeah, thigh
Yep. Yep.
strain, hamstring, something. I'm
Yep.
I'm told that actually that injury developed on the last segment of the Thursday practice, if not literally like the last first team offensive rep of the Thursday practice. There's going to be the speculation, and Marcus Freeman was asked today about how he handles those conversations, and especially when you get to that fourth or fifth game and everybody's looking around. I'm sure Aeneas Williams is probably a little ticked off. You would
Yeah.
we know the volume of work he got last year. We don't know if it would have been different early in the season, maybe against Miami, if he had been healthier and they felt more comfortable that he could carry the ball with that RoboCop brace on his arm. We've seen him get a couple of carries since then, but not really much. He's clearly back on deep on kickoff return because I guess they trust him if it's a squib and they can
Yeah.
believe he can block for Jadarian Price most likely. But it's a situation you have to monitor, and I haven't studied every single element of the participation chart from Saturday's game, and I haven't studied to make sure that everybody has played 5 games. I didn't see Aeneas back on kickoff on Saturday, so I did not realize
He
that.
was back there. Yeah. Yeah. He has played.
So yeah, the 5 game rule, unless you wanted to try to petition the NCAA, you're probably going to stay. I know Notre Dame has tried to make it clear to Aeneas Williams that he is a big part of their future plans, and he's a part of their plans this season. Marcus Freeman said that today. One thing to continue to monitor: Tuesday, tomorrow, October 7th, NCAA is voting on the single window transfer portal. The NCAA feels very, very confident that it can legally withstand any challenges of going down to one window. It did not feel confident that it could only have a 10-day window. So that window tomorrow will be voted on to last January 2nd through January 16th. I know that's still during the season, but only 4 teams will still be alive on January 2nd. January 8th is the semifinal. So even before that window ends, Everybody is done except for your national title participants. That's significant. Another thing that if it's not brought up tomorrow, it won't be voted on tomorrow. It could be discussed tomorrow. It's expected to be discussed this month at some legislative levels. And I've got an email that AFCA President Kurt Bowles sent out to member coaches is the 5-for-5 rule. And that is college athletics, and we're talking college football, so we'll keep it here, is moving closer and closer to adopting a 5 years to play 5 seasons model flat. Do away with the red shirt, and you just have 5 years to play five, no matter what. And it's got the most widespread support. It's like the Yankees and Red Sox linking arms and singing Kumbaya when I talk to general managers from opposing power conferences or assistant coaches from around the country. Yeah, it's like the 49ers and the Cowboys both celebrate White Clark's catch. It's whatever
Oh
you
yeah,
want
that's
to
good.
use.
That was good. That was a
It's
good one.
whatever you want to use. People who hate each other are in unanimous support. An SEC GM told me last week, I literally don't know one person against this. It makes the most sense. And so if that happens, even if it's just brought up for discussion tomorrow or in the coming months, pay attention. I'm told, and I wrote this last week on Football Scoop, it could be voted on by the end of the year or in early January. Early January is the AFCA convention. It's also the NCAA convention right outside of DC in National Harbor, Maryland, from January 13th through the 16th. So in that general time frame, it could be voted on. My understanding is if the 5-for-5 is passed, it would go into effect for this 26 signing class. All student athletes would have 5 years for 5 seasons of competition, no limit. You wouldn't have to just play 4 games in one of those seasons. You, in theory, could play 60 regular season football games plus all the other if it passes. And then there just would not be a red shirt anymore. And I think I've been told by multiple GMs that members of the 2025 class, so current true freshmen, would be grandfathered in.
Grandfathered in. Okay.
But anyway, so that's a long-winded way of answering. The red shirt deal is still out there. It's still something to monitor. Marcus Freeman addressed it today. Now, he did say, like, look, we want everybody to understand your role may not be what you want it to be, and it's okay to be dissatisfied with that. We want you to be hungry, but on game day, we want you to fill your role. But he ultimately said also, look, if you don't want to be here to play football, we're not going to keep you here.
Yeah. Going back to the whole red shirt thing, I mean, this weekend, Jaden Greathouse is still listed as questionable for the game. And we were surprised to see a name on there listed as questionable. That is really good news for Notre Dame. I'm not sure how Cooper Flanagan feels about only playing half a season and using a year of eligibility. But to see Cooper Flanagan on the questionable list is huge progress. Marcus Freeman talked about he got some reps last week. You could tell by the excitement in his voice that he was very encouraged about getting Cooper Flanagan back, fairly soon. Not I wouldn't think this weekend, but they're in the process of doing
Yeah,
that.
I wouldn't think he kind of couched it for this weekend, I thought. Yeah.
Well, and
Yeah.
then you have USC, then you have a bye week, so you probably would wait until Game 7. It's a similar situation to what Eli Raridan dealt with after losing a year of eligibility as a freshman, playing 5 games and then not being ready to start the season the next year. He really was put in a tough spot. But from a Notre Dame football 2025 standpoint, it's really exciting to hear that Cooper Flanagan's actually practicing.
I make sure if I'm Notre Dame and Cooper Flanagan's agent and Cooper Flanagan that I play the first game I can if it's USC and 3 more regular season games because you cannot play Cooper Flanagan for 5 snaps against Pittsburgh and Syracuse and Stanford
No,
and
that's
waste
fair.
his year of eligibility because then he's available for the whole playoff run. But that'd be great to have Cooper Flanagan back for 5 games. And look, if they weren't playing USC, I bet you Cooper Flanagan would be listed as questionable for the first time on game number 9 coming up if that was USC. They need to hit.
No, that's a great
Yeah.
point, Tim.
Yeah,
That's a great point. That's the way you have to handle
He's
it.
not going to come back and be Cooper Flanagan. He can come back and help you. So let him help you for 4 games and then try to win 4 playoff games. He can play 8 games, just like your guy, Joseph Vinci, did last year, right, Tim? He maintained his eligibility.
Well, and real quickly before we go to break, and in that scenario, To, also if you can get Flanagan back against USC, then he gets a bye week to see how the body reacts to playing, and then you're not going to need him against Boston College. Holy moly, the bottom's falling out there. And so you can just be selective in the other 3 games that you want him going into your postseason.
We have a question from Malloy on base. From week 1 to now, which defender's arc tells the story of this unit's improvement?
Let's do someone besides Tay Johnson because we all agree.
Besides.
We all wrote his name down.
We all wrote his name down.
All right, cross it out.
Uh, I'd say Kingston Viliamuasa because when Marcus Freeman says when we went 3 linebackers, he was not coming off the field. Other than that, we do a rotation. He is the second best player on the defense for me. And it's a rough world when you're going to be the second best player the whole time you're at Notre Dame, too, because he's not taking over number 1. I think Kingston Viliamuasa is becoming a force. So I'm going high end as opposed to someone that's shoring something up.
I certainly wrote his name down, and Troy Ori had his most effective game this past weekend as well. Again, like it gets back to our conversation about defensive linemen. Guys are they are getting better, and the key is they're getting better against good offenses, and so that makes it a little bit more significant. KVA, I haven't seen Tim play chart from this past weekend, but I imagine his went up.
Yeah, he was way up. He's like 57 snaps out of 70.
Yeah, he's just so darn instinctive. And Tim, I think we may jump ahead to the next question because I think to question number 7 because I think there's a tie-in, and that's Irish John M. Jalen Snead's best game since, and he also asks, he seemed to play more snaps on Saturday and was aggressive and active, a sign of things to come maybe. I bring that up because of the reasons behind him playing more extensively this past weekend. Why don't you guys get into that?
Well, I didn't answer the last question. So
I'm sorry, JB.
The two
we'll tie them together.
I'm going to cheat and pick a tandem, and that being Elijah Hughes and Cole Mullins. To me, Hughes is becoming who you hoped he was when you got him out of the portal, and Cole Mullins is showing you player development right in front of your eyes, and I think that's significant. I would have picked Tay Johnson, but also that would be a lame pick because I had very high expectations for him going into the preseason, which is why I also wouldn't have picked KVA because we talked very openly in preseason podcasts that there was talk about KVA shouldn't leave the field, and they started feeling that way by about the 3rd or 4th week of spring camp. So those aren't surprising to me.
But JB, they didn't play him that way. That's why his evolution is important. You can feel that way.
Like I'm not denying.
He was 3rd in snaps the whole time.
Right.
Yeah,
right. But he is who he thought he was.
Oh yeah.
And so for me, it's Mullins and Hughes for sure, and Dawson right there. As for Snead, I think he's found a role that he excels in. I think they're being smart with how they use him. He doesn't need to be dropping into coverage, but he's playing with great energy. He's playing with a lot of effort. He shouldn't have had an interception the other day. All of those things, I believe, are factors.
Yeah, that interception should just count for crying out loud. That was on Onye's hit. Onye even let up. Onye even let up on the way down. He didn't even drive him into the ground. He literally lifted his head up so it wouldn't kill him.
Yeah, you could tell. And the time between the release of the football and contact was like that, man. Right. I mean, that's a.
It was just a bad call. It was a missed call.
It was. JB, I apologize for cutting you off on that question, but Tim, the reasons behind Snead playing more, Marcus Freeman talked about 12 personnel and having that additional linebacker on the field.
Yeah, and I do think the Purdue game when he lost all the snaps to Madden Framo, I think JB mentioned he battled a little bit of an undisclosed injury in the week leading up to that. Now he was moved to special team to kickoff coverage in Framo's place, so I was wondering if that was he just lost his spot in the rotation. But
remember, he wasn't a real happy camper when he came to see us. So what
was
that?
No, it was I think Jalen Snead probably expects his Miami workload all the time, 35 snaps, and somebody else has 36 snaps, 34 snaps. He's at 22 and 24. He's playing better football than he played early in the year. I like him as a pass rusher. I like him as a havoc wreaker on 3rd down. I think he can chase things down on 3rd down. Like I mentioned, Stroman. I love having Snead as a possible guy in there in any 3rd and passing situation. I still think he's the 4th best linebacker, the 5th best linebacker in the future. But he's not the 4th or 5th best linebacker in 3rd and 15. You want him on the field running around because he can run down QBs and he can influence things rushing the passer.
Yeah, I actually addressed it. He really did a nice job.
Oh, he did a really nice job. Yeah.
why? So why doesn't Jalen Sneed play more? Well, it's not because he doesn't have the physical capabilities. He's one of the best athletes on the field when he's out there. So what's the answer? I mean, it's got to be that he doesn't play a great team defense, as 1/11th. What other answer would there be?
Well, I think the other linebackers are more versatile and better. I think Jaden Osbury's a very underrated player.
Oh my
KVA is a
goodness.
physical. We're not even arguing KVA. Bowen's a force that they don't like taking off the field physically. I just think they have really good linebackers. I don't.
Yeah. Bowen's being a little underrated these days, and
He's just had his bad moments. He's going to
right.
stick
Well,
out for the rest of the year.
the Texas A&M,
So
that'll stick in the back of
yeah.
everybody's mind, and I understand that. Maybe a little bit of an unfair matchup, but I they've always tried to maximize Jalen Sneed, and clearly the best way to do it is when he's coming off the edge in those kind of situations.
Maybe to answer the question, his best games since Georgia and Navy were his best games last
Okay.
year. So that's probably to answer the question. Now, he was great against Navy. I know people don't like to hear that because it's Navy and it's a different style, but guess what? They're going to play Navy, and Navy is the second best team remaining on Notre Dame's schedule again. So hopefully Jalen Sneed can be good against Navy. From Jay New, having your franchise QB lead block on 4th and 1 beyond being bananas is a sign of how thin the tight end group is. What are y'all's assessment of the health in that room? Is Justin Fisher close? He asked about Cooper Flanagan as well. We touched on that. And is there any chance we will see Will Black or someone else don the old 45, a la Joe Alt?
I don't have any inside information on that, so
But my question to Marcus Freeman today is about the Wildcat and the use of CJ Carr in it.
Yes, please expand.
I just don't know it be yardage running game. And he has told me, or not me, he has told us it is not only short yardage. I mean, it's not only goal to go. It's not only short yardage. So far, CJ Carr's presence has hurt them in only one way all football season, and it's in the Wildcat. So do you commit to another tight end? Do you commit to Jadarian Price and Jeremiah Love, that deception? Or as Marcus Freeman said, because this is what defensive coordinators have told me in the past, including Bob Diaco, we see no quarterback in there and you got a running back, we're sending 10th, and one guy's the 11th guy is about 8 yards off the line in the middle of the field. They're coming to get Jeremiah Love if that happens. I don't know if they need to use it. Tim Priester, how's that?
Well, they don't have enough offense on the field. They don't have enough offense to get a yard. I mean and look, I'm the whole concept of Wildcat. I understand it, and if it works, great, use it.
4th and goal at the 1 is a pretty critical, important situation. When it's 0-0. Yeah,
of course it is.
Yeah.
But you ended up scoring then when you got the next possession. That's a critical play. You don't have enough offense to get in the end zone on that without trying, because essentially you're trying to gain an advantage, so to speak. But man, if it's as sloppy as it is, I don't know why it's necessary to force it. My first reaction is, obviously you're repping it in practice and it's working, right? I mean, it better be working. If there are any misgivings coming off the practice field, then just take advantage of the 11 talented people that you have on the field. You've got a quarterback that can throw a football through a keyhole to one of your wide receivers that are always getting open, and you need 1 yard to do it. I realize you're not working with much territory down there, but I'm kind of reacting, I think, like a lot of people are, about running Wildcat, and it just, it hurt them. It significantly hurt them.
We talked about it in a couple of different podcasts and Overtime Lives. Either let that be the time that you drag your tight end across in motion, like you're going to have him block with Jeremiah Love back there, and let Jeremiah Love pop a little pass over the top of the defense into the end zone. Or why not bring in Aeneas Williams or Nolan James? We just heard Jawan Sider say Nolan James was born to play football and that he blocks so incredibly well. Put 3 tailback. If you're bent on using the Wildcat,
right,
then why not make them think, okay, this dude could actually carry. Like, if you do a direct snap and you're bringing Nolan in some motion, like, I like that guy's chances to catch the edge on somebody, especially when their initial focus has to be on Jeremiah Love taking the snap and going straight to the line of scrimmage. So, look, I like the wrinkle, but, You know what Alabama's Wildcat is right now? It's Caden Proctor,
That's
who's six,
amazing.
who's 6'8" and 900 pounds. And they've used it to throw a screen to him, and they've
Oh, it
used
was great.
to move the sticks and score or move the sticks against Vanderbilt. So, yeah, I'm not. You're an O line and D line driven team. You shouldn't have to be a gimmick. You shouldn't have to be a gimmicks team on 4th and 1. I'm not saying abandon the Wildcat, but it
Yeah, I'm
should.
not saying that.
I'm
I'm
saying
not
getting
saying that
CJ Carr
either.
off the field during the
I'm not.
Wildcat.
Yeah,
I
I'm
am
not
saying
saying
that.
Shaq. Okay, Shaq McCoy, Arkansas's secret
Oh,
weapon.
that was nice too.
Number
You know,
71.
Notre Dame fans listening, if you did not see Proctor's touchdown, excuse me, conversion against Georgia on the screen, that is the definition of bundling a fool, is what happened when he put his head down and ran over Georgia's players. It was, first of all, to catch that ball, and he was moving as soon as he caught that ball. They repped that in practice, Tim Priester, because it worked really well. Some
Oh,
poor
they
scout
sure
team
did.
guys got trampled.
I'm not
Yeah.
saying here. I'm not saying don't run Wildcat, but it better work.
I'm just saying get CJ
I-
Carr off the field during it. It's a direct snap where you have other options.
Yeah.
I'm not, my favorite thing, and I'm going to die on this hill because people are so, when you play a real team, Ohio State, Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss with their defensive line, I like spreading them out on 3rd and 1 and letting somebody make a move in space. And I like having my quarterback out there being able to throw a 20-yard pass
especially,
too. It's just,
especially when you have a Jeremiah Love that
Yes,
needs this
yeah.
much
I
room,
don't love
additional
the-
room to.
sometimes you can bully teams, sometimes you can't, and you got to know the difference. Question here. I'm going to start with JB. Irish HDL. Game day in South Bend. What is your pregame schedule? Are there things you do for every game? I think he means schedule, but maybe ritual also. Pregame stuff. Take a break from the talk about the Wildcat.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm trying to maximize what I can do for Football Scoop. I have quite a bit of duties on Saturdays for Football Scoop, especially getting ready for a shameless plug, our Sunday morning Football Scoop podcast. So I need to digest as much additional football as I can. I'm usually trying to also be in pretty steady contact all day long, frankly, with coaches around the country. And I have a little system where I kind of rotate and try to reach out to maybe 10 different coaches on Friday, tell them good luck, 10 different coaches on Saturday, and then 10 more on Sunday, pending win or loss, and say, hell of a win, get them next week, that type of stuff. And then we're reporting early this year. We're usually getting set up around 3 hours, 2 hours and 45 minutes before kickoff to get pregame instant analysis done for you faithful listeners and viewers. And then, beyond that, my new idiosyncrasy is like, especially when I'm in person covering the Notre Dame game, I'm charting the game in real time, and I'm charting it in real time on the clock as well as the scoreboard.
Wow, mine's not nearly as interesting as that, JB. Irish Illustrated's pregame. First thing I do when I wake up on game day that morning, I put out some notes, just some tidbits going into the afternoon, and then, man, I'm just trying to, go over my checklist of aching orthopedics and try to survive the day. So it's not. I try to.
I didn't
I'm
see that one
trying
coming.
I'm trying. That's the first I've mentioned that. It's a long day for the old timer. So I'm trying to pace myself a little bit and make sure that I'm sharp through the entire night. But I used to go to. Been doing this 44 years, so used to stop by tailgates. Not that I would drink, but I would stop by to see people, and I've kind of skipped that. And I think I'm more focused on, okay, what are we going to do with pregame instant analysis, and what are the points, whether I'm leading it or one of you guys, what are the points that I want to make? But I'm on the down low these days going into these weekend games.
Yeah, mine is pregame duty is who and what to watch for the website. So if you're a tailgater that goes to games, you probably missed that because you're having fun as opposed to reading something on Irish Illustrated Saturday morning. There's a lot of debate on when that should go up. But no, Saturday mornings now, thankfully, in the fall are my son's soccer game. They have a regular name that is really hard to read. Like, when you're sponsored by a team and there's a company out there. Well, they have renamed themselves the Golden Peely Bananas, and they go out there and they bundle fools on the soccer field because this is one heck of a team we're watching play soccer. I then report 3 hours early. We're now in the stadium. We used to be at Innovation Park. We're now in the stadium because we were not allowed to the stadium last year for pregame instant analysis, but we are now on the 7th floor. Tim Priester, John Bryce, and I walk by and look at all the amenities
Oh,
on the
man.
seventh floor and think to ourselves, maybe we should cover the game from this luxury box area
There's
instead of
some
up top.
solid choices to be imbibing.
That's I walk by the tailgates and
Yeah, yeah,
think that. Actually,
yeah.
one thing I would add is when we wrap pregame instant analysis now, although I wouldn't have done it this past Saturday because you guys told me it was as hot there as it was in Hawaii.
Ooh,
But pending the weather, like the A&M game, I went back out and met up with some former players and some other people at some tailgates, met up with some other campus people at tailgates. I do like to get back out there and test my self-discipline because I can't have anything, and I really don't want to eat tailgate food and then get back up in the press box, and I can't have any of the beverages I would like to have. So it's a good test of self-discipline.
I love going out and visiting the subscriber tailgates, but not when it's 88 degrees. So that's why I'm sorry I missed out on all the tailgates these past couple of games because it's been too hot. But North Carolina State and USC are going to offer us Tim Priester a chance to walk outside. And I always meet family at the back of the gate entrance. They all come around, and I see a lot of subscribers right outside the Corbett Family Hall media entrance every game an hour before the game.
I haven't seen the forecast for this weekend.
72 is
70s.
72 as opposed to 88 is
Great.
all that really need to know about because that was rough.
Sport coats are back in play.
And I used to get to drop by the Notre Dame development tailgate, but I don't get to do that anymore. So shout out to all
They
my.
don't, you still don't have an open invitation?
He was banished for an incident. Probably there was.
Nah, I've still got a few fake. I've still got a few leftover passes from. I might try it again, but I miss my Notre Dame development tailgate people.
Who would sneak into something at Notre Dame? You can't do that.
Never.
All right, we have a question from T Row 1989. What's your interior defensive line rotation / delegation of snaps after 5 games? Just when I thought Onye was on his way out, I thought he played better on Saturday. We didn't mention him. Onye, I mean, in addition to the nice hit on the quarterback, he played. He did some really good things. He's still, man, he gets caught on blocks and can't get off, but sometimes, a much more impactful game for him. It's good for him.
Yeah, and that was a better game for Onye's physical strength and stature. Like he was winning that battle.
Yeah,
That was-
the center, they had to switch. Their center was hurt, so they had to move. No, their guard was hurt, so they had to move. I don't remember what it was. They had a new center, and he's like 292 pounds, so that was a good matchup for him.
That was a plus for Jason Onye. To me, I don't know if I have a defined rotation as
Right.
much as Notre Dame is in the midst of playing 5 consecutive games. There have been some really hot ones, some really tough ones, and they had the early bye, and they're going to need that break coming up. So I think the most important thing is that there is a defensive line rotation, and it has expanded, and it's expanded not only in the interior, but it's expanded with Burnham being healthier and reclaiming an increased role. It's expanded with Cole Mullins starting to claim a role. So, I get still starting Heinisch and Onye, but we've heard Marcus Freeman say that doesn't matter.
Yeah,
I like a lot of Dawson and Hughes and a couple of those other guys.
I think what happens is, like we get caught up in the optics of some of these situations. When a defensive lineman gets double teamed, and you don't know who it's necessarily going to be from snap to snap. When a defensive lineman gets double teamed, it's pretty good. It's pretty difficult to look good as a defensive lineman. Now, I thought that was one of the things that I thought was so impressive about Mullins at Arkansas was that he was getting double teams at times, and he was actually pushing both of the offensive linemen back. So, we can stress about this, but I mean, Washington's going to make the decision. There's going to be a steady rotation of these guys, and the good thing is that they're all kind of escalating a little bit here. I didn't think that. I mean, I know Heinisch had a bunch of pressures. He also missed a tackle on a 20-yard run by Dylan Riley. That kind of hurt him or them. But I don't know. I think we probably stress and fret too much about who should be on the field. They got a pretty good thing going. And the other thing is, of course, when you get double teams, man, it's very difficult to look good as an interior defensive lineman.
Yeah, we should mention Heinisch because this is a Pro Football Focus thing, but Heinisch had 7 quarterback pressures per Pro Football Focus, and that is the most since 2022 at Notre Dame. Actually, he and Howard Cross did it. Howard Cross did it in the Duke game. A little more memorable, Howard Cross's effort against Duke when he was National Player of the Week than Kurt Heinisch against Boise State. But JB, you mentioned good game for Jason Onye. Also, this is the right game. That was the right game for Donovan Heinisch to be in. And I mentioned that when he was getting overrun against Miami, that Donovan Heinisch will help you. He just can't help you against Miami. So you have to have a rotation that's six guys now. That's the most important thing. And I'd still call it six rotational guys.
Oh, they still, yeah. Um,
Rubio's
I
the
mean,
only
I
one
think,
you could
yeah,
argue against
I think,
that, but
yeah, if anybody gets the most snaps, I think
Yeah.
Sampson said that. I mean, I would agree with that, that it should be Rubio. But look, it is what it is. The important thing is guys are stepping up. I mean, they
yes.
are legitimately stepping up. And so
Well,
that's a good thing.
yeah, and like what we've learned now is with the expanded rotation and guys getting healthier or staying healthy, and casual or occasionally using Bryce Young inside as well. Notre Dame has a lot of potential answers for opponent questions, and I think that's significant. There's a lot of potential
That's a good point.
solutions
Yeah.
there for Notre Dame.
Our final question is from Wash ND. With the defense beginning to stabilize and the offense and CJ Carr getting its off game, quote unquote, behind it, and he says, hopefully the Wildcat being sent to the dustbin. That poor Wildcat's on everything, man. This team seems very close to becoming a dominant top 10 level team. With terrible losses this past weekend by Penn State and Texas, could Notre Dame actually be close to controlling its own destiny again? I think that's the important part of this question. Do they actually control their own destiny now? I don't know if anybody noticed that, but Penn State lost to UCLA last week. People didn't notice that. They were listening. I would like to point out that Penn State, in the conference they're in the Big Ten, had to travel to UCLA, another Big Ten team, and they lost the game. Tim Priester and John Bryce. Go ahead and discuss Penn State's loss if you want to.
Yeah,
Jump in, JB.
well, you all know this because I'm certain there's no way you did not listen to Drew Mintock and I on Overtime Live, but that might have been the lead into our show on Saturday about both the Nittany Lions becoming the Nipped Lions and also the Texas Longhorns becoming the Steers in the swamp. And for Washington D, the Wildcat, it's clearly the Wildcat has nine lives. The Wildcat has nine lives.
Yeah.
But I do believe I made this point on OTL. It's not just Texas losing, still not a win against a power conference foe. It's not just Penn State losing, still not a win against a power conference foe. It's that those two teams are not done losing. Iowa State lost. That's a huge benefit for Notre Dame because, again, it makes the Big 12 look more and more like a likely one bid league. I'm very convinced that the ACC will be a one bid league and should be a one bid league. So, yeah, Notre Dame is really close to having, I think, regaining control of its destiny. If it beats USC and goes into the open week like that, I think Notre Dame could exit October really in full control of its destiny. And I now believe that Notre Dame not only is in a very good position, especially I think Miami Notre Dame in a rematch would be a coin flip. I think I would have no hesitation in picking Notre Dame to beat Texas A&M again in a rematch. I just feel that way from continuing to watch these two teams. But anyway, I say all that to say I think not only is Notre Dame close to regaining control of its destiny, I think Notre Dame is close to regaining control of destiny that could include a home playoff game again. And that was absolutely theater of the absurd to think on September 14th.
That's the one aspect of it, JB, that I haven't considered them being a home team, but that's off in the distance. But um, I think it's a good question by Wash ND, and I think it's a legitimate point that with teams like Penn State and Texas losing, Notre Dame is getting closer to being able to control its own destiny. Now, the negative part is that, I mean, outside of USC, you're probably not going to play anybody that necessarily is going to impress anybody if you do beat them. But it's an attrition game, and you know the best thing that could happen. My niece Rachel was sending me text during the game asking about do we want Miami to win? Do we want Texas A&M to win? Yeah, you want them to win.
Yeah.
You want them to be ranked number 1 and number 2, and that would be the best case scenario for Notre Dame. But the schedule can be a little bit limiting. But I think it's a good question as some of these teams start to eliminate themselves. I mean, who thought that Penn State and Texas would have 2 losses each at this point?
Well, I was going to say, guys, I mean, what if, you have Oregon number 1 and UCLA number 2 because Penn State lost to UCLA. And if UCLA goes up to number 2, then there's trouble. Penn State lost to UCLA, right, as a 24.5 point favorite. They had to drive out there. I think, Frank, yeah, it was important. Two teams not playing Jack Freeman for a conference championship this year. Notre Dame Independent and Penn State also will not be playing for a conference championship this game either. So, yeah, fandom has dissipated quite a bit. I still have the hate keeps me warm for a couple of places, and it was rekindled last January during that Orange Bowl visit.
It seems like Penn State is your Chicago Cubs. But anyway, I wouldn't know anything about one thing I would want to emphasize because I actually just got
talking
back.
to me, JB?
No, I just I can't tell if you can. I can't tell if you can see this Steve Bartman signed photo.
Tonight's a very important night in Milwaukee.
I want to follow up and just tie a bow on my point of view about the playoff. I actually did just get to return from the college football playoffs mock selection, one of the best professional career opportunities I've ever had. I'll be writing about that hopefully this week on Football Scoop. But I bring that up to say the criteria is different this year. The top 4 teams are going to be your top 4 teams. The top 8 teams are going to be your top 8 teams. So this year, Boise State and Clemson would not have been guaranteed certain seeds. They would not have been guaranteed their placement. So that can be a conference champion can be the 11 or 12 seed. The group of 5 team can be the 12 seed.
That was a necessary correction in order for this to be what we all want it to be. Yeah.
Correct. So Notre Dame, in theory, if it climbs to 6, it's not going to get bumped to 7 because of weird stuff and host the 10. If Notre Dame got to 6, it would host the 11 seed no matter who the 11 seed was. So I do want to drive that point home before I deliver it also with the written word.
JB, was any of the criteria if your best win is Villanova? Do you get in possibly if you were on the table?
Man, you were just pounding.
I was wondering.
You're just pounding it, man.
Yeah, your hairline, guys, looks great.
I just want, I was trying to give a little bit of history. When I was growing up in the business, Penn State was still an independent, and so the rivalry, and Notre Dame was playing Penn State during the regular season, and so the rivalry was really huge. And I am not the kind of journalist that, I don't cheer against. I don't have any animosity towards other teams. I've always tried to be, unbiased about it. And you want Notre Dame to win, but
wait.
Whatever.
You watch the UCLA Penn State game and you don't root for someone?
However, Penn State would be different just because of what I said growing up in the business when they were an independent and playing Notre Dame. And I always felt like they had that, that Fredo complex that we talk about with Boston College. So I have to be completely transparent and say, way to go, UCLA.
Let me tie a bow on that then for both of you gentlemen. This was shared in our Football Scoop staff Slack this morning, and it's going to warm your cockles. In the last 2 games for Jim Knowles, his defenses have allowed 859 yards, 16 for 34 third down conversions, 42 first downs, 0 turnovers, and a sack. And by the way, Dan Lanning didn't say a damn word when the Ducks quacked all over the Nittany Lions in a whiteout. They
had to travel too. They did have to travel.
The Ducks dropped their deuce on that Penn State whiteout and never complained about having to fly across country.
Caleb Downs is not walking through that door, Jim Knowles. For John Bryce of Football Scoop and for Tim Priester of Irish Illustrated, I'm Tim O'Malley. We will be back Thursday for another episode. Thanks for watching and listening. Irish Illustrated Insider.